You are listening to the Bravo Creative Podcast, hosted by Tom Baker. Thank you for listening. Your position has been triangulated. Drone Army has been dispatched to your location. Commencing attack run in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Bravo Creative Podcast, Episode 7. Thank you so much for listening. Today's episode is brought to you by a lot of hard work and endurance and an innate love of talking with creative people. So I really want to thank my sponsor for today. So the podcast is now on every possible platform you could wish for. The Bravo Creative Podcast is running on Podbean, which I absolutely love. They've made it very easy to get up and running and onto all of the various platforms. And they have a great iOS and Android app to listen to all your favorite podcasts, including this one. And no, this is not a paid advertisement. I just want to let you know that I really like that software and I really like their platform that they have. The podcast is also on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And coming up in the coming weeks, I'll be finishing up the makeshift Bravo Creative Studio to bring the podcast to you in glorious 1080p. And I'm also going to have a few live broadcasts thrown into the mix, so stay tuned for those dates. I'm still kind of working out the details with those. So enough of that chit chat, and let's get on with today's show. My guest today is very different from my previous guests in that I've never worked with him on set or on any projects, but we have run in the same circles for a couple of years. We've talked in passing, and I have to say that I've always been very impressed with his aesthetic visually. And every time we've talked, I've been very impressed with his perspective and the excitement he has for talking cameras and lighting and gear in general. And on top of all that, he has a great work ethic. He has a great eye for composition and lighting, and he has an awesome story of how he got into filmmaking and video production. He is the owner of Giddens and Co Visuals that operates out of Branson in Springfield, Missouri. And you can check out his Facebook page and his web page listed in the description. And there's tons of cool stuff that he's been working on. And it's kind of envious of all the cool things that he gets to do. I want to welcome to the mic, Mr. Joseph Giddens.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
It's awesome having you here, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Like I said, I've had the privilege of all of my guests up until now have been people that I have worked with or have spent quite a bit of time talking shop with. Right. You and I, we actually met one day. We were in Springfield and we were kind of at the same place, and we just kind of were out in a parking lot and we just started talking. Yeah. And you had known about me, I had known about you, and we had worked with some different people, and it was all kind of like a 7 degrees of separation. And we sat and talked camera gear for an hour. I think we kind of ultimately go, okay, we need to stop. We got to get back to work, or we got to go do what we're doing. So we did talk a little bit earlier, and give the audience a rundown of what you do.
Currently, I own a business called Giddens and Co Visuals, and we specialize in camera operating, jib work. We own about 3 cameras that we either rent out or utilize on certain projects. We're able to produce projects. We're able to contract ourselves out just to operate. We just do a little bit of everything, to be honest with you.
You've been doing that for, what, about 2 or 3 years?
Personally own my own business for about 5 years, but I've been in the industry for almost 13 years.
Wow. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Oh, my gosh. It makes me feel old, just like, honestly, just like listening to how much you were able to get done and how much you were able to get done and learn. But there's a story behind that of how you were able to get in and learn a lot of this. I would say it was hard knocks. Would you?
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
So take us back. You have a business here in Springfield.
Uh-huh.
You work on some pretty cool projects. What was the one? What was the one where you got all the mud all over the place, all over your truck? You were filming.
I was filming. It's an annual like a dog competition in
that's right, that's
Alabama,
right, that's
and
right.
it's put on Amazon Prime and
I don't
Discovery
know why
Channel.
I thought that was Jeep.
I wish.
Yeah, that'd be
Probably would've
great.
been more fun. It's just dogs that chase the fake birds and
Oh, okay.
from the blinds and stuff. It's about a week's worth of filming,
Oh, cool.
and I do all the jib operating work for that.
So tell us some of the people that you have worked for.
So in my 14 years, it's been a wide variety. I originally started in live television, and in live television I got to work with, and some people may not know who some of these people are, but for instance, Mike Huckabee, Montel Williams, Dottie Rambo, Billy Graham and his daughter. And then after I kind of left that scene, I started doing more music videos and personal projects. And the past year, I've gone to work with AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys, went on tour with him, NSYNC, a few other people in that genre. We were supposed to do a project with Justin Timberlake a few weeks ago, but that got annexed due to the COVID-19. And we just have a lot of random clients. I mean, from live TV to as seen on TV commercials and limos and RV commercials and car commercials and product placement commercials and things like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And you were filming on Damon Costello's film Pray They Stand Down,
Pray
right?
They Stand Down.
So were you the camera operator on that one?
Damon utilized my company for renting the camera for that movie and as well as operating the camera.
Oh, cool.
We personally are invested in the Sony series, and we have the Sony FS7, the Sony FX9, and the Sony A7S III. And
Those are great cameras.
they are. I'm really happy with them. And Damien, due to budget and the availability, he decided the FX9 would be a great camera to utilize for that movie. And
Well, and I saw some trailer at some point, and then I haven't seen it again. I don't know where it's at.
Sure.
Was it up for a little while? And
It
it was
was.
down, but
like a
it
teaser.
looked great.
Thank
I
you.
mean, you guys did a really good job.
yeah,
How did you light that?
using the FX9
Yeah.
for that. Honestly, I'll be honest. I wasn't like so much nervous as it's such a new camera that I wasn't sure the full capability of it. But once we utilized it, because we paired it with the Sigma Cine zoom lenses series, we also utilized the Atomos Ninja 5, so we shot everything in ProRes RAW, and also utilized Teradek, Nucleus M, wireless focus control system, and it all worked and functioned very well. And honestly, the biggest part of that camera for that shoot was we had a lot of low light scenes, and the FX9 has a dual base ISO, and it actually shined really well.
Now explain for the people out there what a dual base ISO in a camera
Oh man,
is for.
I don't even know if I can explain that correctly, but in layman's term, I guess, is you've got your minimal ISO base that allows you.
Well, wait, let's go back.
Sure.
ISO is, as a camera operator, you look at ISO as the amount of light that the sensor is capturing. And so if you have a really bright condition outside, your ISO is going to be lower.
As low as
you can possibly do. When you get into a high ISO, you introduce more light, but you also introduce more noise into it, so it gets kind of grainy looking. Right. So now dual base ISO there is a low and a high that it's always kind of bouncing back and forth off of, isn't it?
Yeah, and it also allows you to. So it's kind of weird. So like the FX9 dual base is 800 and I believe 4,000. I could be incorrect. I might be thinking of the FX6 I just released. But so at 800, your image is super clean, great for post-production work. But anything between 800 and 4,000, you're actually dealing with noise and other issues with the camera. But if you go all the way to its max base ISO, which is 4,000, it ends up being a really, really clean image because it ends up being a native ISO but at the high point.
So in essence, you're able to shoot in pretty much total dark.
Close, yeah.
And you're still able to introduce a
really clean image.
Maybe a simple light or what were you all using as far as lights on that?
We used two 1200 HMIs, and we used a lot of Quasar tubes and the occasional Fresnel or Kino Flow.
So bright lights, but bright lights don't necessarily translate the same way on all cameras. And so basically what you all were doing is you were using minimal lighting.
Right.
To be totally honest, I mean, you're not using ARRI lights that are big, huge, massive lights that are
Correct.
shooting the sun at you.
Right.
And so you're using minimal lights, and you're still able to get really good lighting off of it. And hopefully we can maybe get a trailer or get one of those trailers out there that people can see.
Watch,
but you all did a really good job on that. I thought it looked really good.
We had a lot of low light scenes, so even if we had bright lights, we had to manipulate them in order to replicate a dark scene.
And it kind of played in with the I guess the theme of it,
Correct.
as far as I know on that. So yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
Worked really well.
You've worked on a lot of different types of projects.
Correct.
You've filmed jib shots all the way down to actually doing film work.
Correct.
So which is your favorite right now?
Honestly, I tell a lot of people, I personally enjoy doing jib because it's kind of one of those things that not a lot of people know how to do. And when you do it, no one bothers you. You just get to build your own camera and operate it from afar and kind of do your own thing and get really creative. All the other cameras are usually on tripods and don't have a lot of availability of movement like I do. But personally, anything that just incorporates operating a camera, I just really enjoy.
So do you own your own jib?
No, I do not, but I have access to 3 jibs that I can utilize.
So you just rent them and then...
I thought of investing in one, but sometimes you come at a point like, is a $12,000 investment versus $500 a day rental or something like that worth it?
We were doing Mike Strain, Madison Strain. They were doing, it was the Buddy Cop film.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm ready for it to come out. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
we filmed that. It was about a year. I guess it was over a year ago.
Yeah, I was actually asked to be on that.
Oh, really?
I wasn't available. Yeah.
So we got to the day of filming, and I think they had kind of talked about it a little bit, and they're like, hey, we're going to use a jib shot. And I was like, okay. And I kind of didn't know that I was going to be the one running the jib. And I had only messed with one before, but it wasn't,
right.
I'm not a pro at it by any means, but I got there, and I think I had to do it it was about 10 takes till I got it, till I was able to nail the shot with the jib.
You have to be good at multitasking, and you're having to walk and pan and tilt and focus and zoom sometimes at the same time.
It's kind of like chewing bubble gum and walking at the same time for some people.
Right.
Well, then they had one shot afterwards, and what they wanted is they wanted this low angle shot with my camera on it.
Right.
A low angle shot with a car driving directly at it. And then I was supposed to lift that camera up and just miss the top of the roof of the car as it was going past.
Yeah.
And I think we nailed it on one take.
Awesome. It's not easy.
But I think it was because I was scared because I was afraid the car was going to hit my camera.
Right. Yeah, I've been there. The perception it can be really off.
It's a little different. Yeah,
especially when you're dealing with maybe 20, 30, 40-foot jib.
Right.
So you got to account for that.
How did you get into the video business? And I know that this is we've talked about this,
right.
But this is a very unique and a non-conventional way of getting into it, and it's really interesting.
It's different.
So give us a little background on you and how you got into video production, basically.
Sure. So ever since I was a kid, I always enjoyed anything that involved cameras or video and whatnot. But long story short, my twin sister and I were raised in Huntsville, Alabama, and our parents generally watched Christian TV, and one of those programs was a man named Jim Baker, who some are familiar with, some aren't. A little background on him: he basically started Christian television back in the 1940s and 50s, and he started like 700 Club with Pat Robertson and some other programs and such. Long story short, he had a place up here in Blue Eye, Missouri called Morningside that utilized or allowed him to utilize a TV studio up there. And after my dad retired from working for the government, he decided to retire up here. And we retired in a really close proximity to the studio. And we were about 16 at the time. And we came up here, and I had a heavy interest in it. And we were watching Jim's show once, and he did a live studio audience. So we're sitting up front, and we started like literally talking. He's like, "Do you want to operate a camera?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, I'd love to." So he put me on camera, and he's like, if you want to volunteer here or whatever, you can start as like a grip, one who works with the cables and assisting the director and whatnot, and work your way up. So at 16 years of age, I started working in live television, and we originally started on working out of a TV truck donated by the Ted Turner Network, so TNT. And it was an 18-wheeler truck. If you're claustrophobic, forget it, because you had your video tape recorder, your audio, your graphics, and your director. We operated on really old equipment, and then one day Jim Baker was able...
Now, was that all donated equipment, or was that equipment from the old days?
I want to say it was a mixture of donated and stuff they accrued. I don't think
Really?
anything was original from the PTL days.
So he lost all that then?
From what I understand, yes.
Yeah.
And actually, someone else has acquired that location.
Okay.
Where Jim used to be. One day, Jim was able to accrue a certain amount of money and was able to upgrade everything. And when I was about 17 or 18, we built basically an in-house TV studio in a matter of a few weeks, and it should have taken about 2 months. And we upgraded everything to 4K. We went to a Grass Valley switcher console and upgraded monitors, cameras, bought a 30-foot Jimmy jib, triangle jib for the studio. And I think at the end of the day, we had a 6 or 7 camera setup. And we would film his talk show every day, and sometimes be 2 hours, sometimes be up to 8 hours of filming. And on top of that, we'd film commercials for the products he would give to donators and any other side projects, or when special guests will come on the show.
Right.
And sometimes we'd even travel and go film certain events. And so there was a lot of stuff
So you were working a lot then?
Yeah, big opportunity for someone my age. And I volunteered full-time for about a couple of years, and then was offered a paid position. And I, kind of thought I died. I went to heaven, was super grateful for the opportunity, and learned to work in that industry and basically make anything they wanted happen. Nothing was ever a no. It was like, we'll make it happen.
Right.
And and he had a lot of opportunities there. And it wasn't just the studio building. He had school for people who wanted to learn film. He had a place for women who wanted to get out of possibly abusive relationships while they're pregnant. He just had a multitude of options there that we're always filming projects on.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any people there that you worked with that were like uber knowledgeable in that stuff? I mean, obviously they didn't just throw you to the wolves. I mean, did they have some people there that could kind of show you the ropes?
Yeah, they had quite a few people, but a lot of them were, no offense to them, they were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and I was, 17, 18 at the time. And
right.
I basically chose to just be quiet and listen to what they had to say. I did have a mentor named Jimmy Wright, who taught me an immense amount, and unfortunately he passed away quite a few years ago. But just people like him, I would sit under and just listen, and he kind of changed my thinking around, because at the time I was like, oh yeah, I'm a camera operator, I know what I'm doing. And he's like, well, one day he was like, if the back focus ever went out on your camera, would you know how to fix it? And I'm like, what's a back focus? And he was like, okay, let's start from the top. He's like, you're no good being a camera operator if you don't know how to fix the camera you're working on,
right,
or utilizing. So just stuff like that. And from there, we'd always change lighting scenes for different sets. So I chose to learn how to do that and just try to do a little bit of everything. And honestly, I think I learned a little bit about everything except audio. And to this day,
that's like everyone.
I kind of steer away from audio. They're the first to get yelled at, the last to be thanked.
Oh, they're definitely the last to get thanked.
I love good audio, though. I'm kind of an audiophile, if that makes sense. But when it comes to anything that requires expert audio, I just hire people.
It's kind of one of those things that it doesn't take long to figure out. It doesn't take many times of editing something to figure out that you get what you pay for on audio.
Absolutely.
And most of the time we don't pay anything for audio, and we probably should have paid quite a bit on audio. And especially, it's like you look at like sound mastering, all that sound stuff. Design. That's a big deal, and people I think have a tendency to overlook it because I really want that slider, that really beautiful slider shot, and really it's better to have more of a sound design than
Absolutely.
not.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and that's why I'm really thankful for the people I know in the audio industry local here that I can call and use, because I just completely lost.
Yeah, those are the ones you usually try to give them a Christmas present at least.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like a new microphone.
Because audio people, there's not that many, but people that can turn a camera on, they're a dime a dozen sometimes.
Right. But holding a boom pole sometimes for 8 hours is definitely a feat.
You ultimately got out and you decided to stay in the business.
Right.
And so kind of walk us through leaving, working on Jim Bakker's television show.
Sure.
To getting out of that and kind of getting into your own business.
Well, I was very thankful for my opportunity, but I realized, I needed to move on and do some other things, and there's stuff I still needed to learn. So I quit, and I literally actually sat in my apartment for 3 months flat broke, trying to figure out how do I operate in this saturated market. And I had quite a few friends in the...
Now, when you say saturated market, like Springfield, saturated market?
Branson, yeah. There's just video people everywhere and photographers.
Right.
That was the other thing. I realized very quickly, like, you could master photography, but if that's all you do, it's going to be very hard to live. So I chose to learn photography, video, and live TV directing. So that way I could kind of utilize all those for, gaining funds and whatnot. So I ended up working on like some music videos and volunteering my time to work on some passion projects for free, just so I could learn different avenues and
probably network as well too.
Absolutely,
because you weren't from the Springfield area, were you?
Not originally, no.
So did you ever like moonlight up in this area in Springfield whenever you were working down there with Jim Bakker's stuff?
No, and actually I never really got into the Springfield scene until about 3 years ago.
So 3 years ago, you basically got in and started working on projects. And by working on projects, you met people.
More so the Branson era. Yeah, is where I started.
It was easier to show your stuff off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I started just...
And this is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to anybody out there that's trying to figure out how to get into the market. I've really kind of tried to stress this a lot on the podcast, is that you get out by being a nice person, which Joseph is, super nice guy and very accommodating, willing to talk about stuff. Go out and be that type of person,
right?
And get out and meet people,
yep,
and be willing to work with people, and you will. We need more people like this. We need more people that can come out and start working on stuff.
You're absolutely right, because anyone can really buy a camera these days, but it's how you communicate with people, your clients, being on time, actually being early.
If you're on time, you're late.
Absolutely. And the biggest factor I would tell people is to invest yourself into their project. You're not into the project just for a paycheck. You want to be as excited as they are about their product. And I'll be honest, I've shot some products that I'm like, this is not my thing. This is not exciting, but you have to get excited with your client, not to put on facade per se, but just, you have to invest in it in order to bring out the best product available.
Sure.
And if you don't, then people can tell that you just did it.
I've passed on projects before because I wasn't excited about it, but I knew of other people that would be excited about it. And I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to give you a pass through. You can have this one.
Sure.
I recommended you to my client, and they want you to come in and do this. And I think that's great. I think that it helps. It, even people that are going to have fun working on a project, that's what keeps them doing this.
Absolutely.
If you are doing it just for the paycheck, you won't last very long in the business.
Absolutely. And honestly, after I left Jim Bakker, there was 2 or 3 people that I had met that I was like, I want to be just like them. It was David Newton, Justin Cardosa, and Joe Bremer. All these people had pretty good reputation. They did a lot of cool projects. They all had some pretty nifty gear. And at the young age I was like, I just strive to be that someday. And now I've worked with all of them. They're great people. It just took a lot of...
Now, what are these guys? What do they do?
David Newton, he is a camera operator, but he specializes in gimbal operations now. And he owns a Red, and he's actually been doing all the gimbal work for the series Last Chance U on Netflix and Cheer.
Oh, cool.
In which my other friend, Tim Mikulek, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name, Tim.
Yeah, you know what, Tim, I love watching your drone footage on
phenomenal.
Facebook. Some of that stuff, is that PO? Is it?
He does POV, yeah.
Or is it FPV?
FPV, I'm sorry.
Is it FPV?
Yeah.
We'll put a link out there for some of this stuff.
He's
but this
great.
FPV stuff that he's doing, I
Sure.
mean, he's like threading the needle as far as like flying these drones through these little tiny openings and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just cool.
He's phenomenal.
Cool to look at. But anyways, I really like your stuff, man. Every time he would post a video out, I was like, man, how do you do that? It's got to be so much fun to film too.
Oh
though.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the cool thing. It's just, and the other thing I tell people, don't burn bridges. Just because one person has this camera or does this thing, don't try to outdo them or be better than them. Just utilize your own gear and then make friends with them.
Oh, yeah.
And utilize each other. Because I will call Tim for drone stuff or AC or Ben Bagwell to help with photography or Cardoza with operating. You just utilize people and just be,
Well,
work
and
together.
you know just as well as anyone else is that this industry is hard enough as it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Without us like pissing on each other, basically, for lack of a better word. And I think that's what ultimately you wind up get down into that kind of stuff. And then you look at the competitiveness of the directors or the productions and stuff like that. And, it's just like, hey, that's great and all, but man, this is hard enough as it is. So I kind of don't want to play that.
Right. And that's why my end goal was to strictly be able to get projects that paid enough to utilize everyone that I would want involved rather than just, and I will tell you, for people who are starting out on their own, you'll do everything yourself. You'll be the own producer, director, audio, lighting, and camera. I've been there. I did that for probably 10 years. And it sucks, but it really teaches you how to just utilize your talents and know what you can do and what you can't do. And, not say no and just be like, yes, I'm going to make it happen. So
it's good, and it's good to know all the different aspects. You don't have to be an expert by any means on them, but it is good to at least like kind of walk a mile in each one of those little shoes and find out, what it takes to get it done and kind of know the hardships that are along with it. It's like, and I'll bring her name up again because I do it. It feels like I do it every single podcast. But Jamie Talamantas, working on,
she's great.
The last two films that I worked on, she was the basically the script supervisor on it, and it's like one of those positions out there. But I never knew that there was that type of a person that would do that on a film set. But man, now that I've experienced it, it is like the most important person on a film set. They keep everything in order,
on track. Yeah, for sure.
Because it is nothing but it's chaos for in most cases, especially on independent film. It's chaos, and so having someone that can bring order to that chaos it's
a big talent.
Yeah,
it's a big task
really
to take too.
So yeah, and I want to have Jamie on, but
absolutely,
we're gonna have to get our schedules all figured out.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So now we're gonna get into the gear talk.
Oh, fun.
Because we've kind of gone in and we've talked about your background, how you got into it. Well, before we get into that, so I have a little bit of a bone to pick with you, is that you consider yourself a camera operator.
I mean, I'd consider myself as a cinematographer, but
I would too. But you call yourself a camera operator, and that's a little bit of a misnomer because a camera operator, in the truest sense, basically just pushes the button and sets the camera to whatever. But the cinematographer is also building that story, that what they're seeing, and they're telling it visually. So kind of walk us through what are some of your influences, because I do think you're more of a cinematographer. Take us through some of your influences and what are the films that you watch that you go, this inspires me. This is the kind of stuff that I like replicating. Kind of take us through that.
At a young age, I really enjoyed documentaries, and one of my heroes was Ken Burns.
Okay, yeah.
And, it's really hard to talk about something where most of the content's photos, for instance, World War I, World War II. And he was just able to create a story when he made the series The War that really impacted me in storytelling. As far as impactful movies, I would say one that really hit a home run with me when I was a kid was the original Batman. Or not original, I should say.
The Tim Burton Batman.
That, and then The Dark Knight.
Oh, the Christopher Nolan.
Yes,
okay.
That one blew my mind. They did a lot of stuff that I never knew was even possible.
So what was it you liked about that film? The Christopher Nolan one. Is that the one you were talking about? Yeah. Not the Tim Burton
Correct.
one? Okay.
Correct. I mean, great movie.
Yeah.
The amount of, I don't know, a lot of it was CG, but a lot of it wasn't. And
Nolan's really good at like not bringing a lot of attention to his
After
CG, yeah.
Right.
CGI.
His camera movements just was astounding. It flowed really well with the movie.
It was purposeful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From the Batmobile just crashing through the roof and going through the mall and becoming the bike and everything just was.
Oh yeah, Dark Knight.
Yeah, very
Dark
well
Knight,
done.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them are great.
Dark Knight is probably, I would say, of the last like 15 to 20 years, Dark Knight is probably bumped one of my old films out of the way. And
really?
Dark Knight, loved how he Batman, the first Batman was good.
Sure.
But Dark Knight was kind of like the coup de grace for me. It was I think it's probably one of the better superhero films out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just a great film just in general.
But a crazy, well, not a extreme difference, but like another one of my favorite movies is I Walk the Line.
Oh yeah.
Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
That movie
Joaquin
was
Phoenix,
very well.
I always get
shot.
that mixed up with Dewey Cox.
Right.
Have you ever seen Dewey Cox?
Yeah. I was trying to not say that name. It's very well done. That movie has a lot of emotion to it, and they were able to capture that. And Johnny Cash was a very talented singer. I actually got to do an interview with his sister. That movie, Johnny Cash went through a lot as a child and growing up, and it's very hard to capture sometimes someone's story in that nature, and they did, I think, an excellent job capturing it. And
I guess kind of because of your affinity to documentaries and telling
telling the story.
kind of like true story.
Right.
I can see that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And then I'm a big fan of the Joker movie. I think that was done very well.
What is it that you like about the Joker movie?
They didn't try to. I was worried they were going to try to make a big cinematography deal out of it, and everything was just very, to me, subtle. Like the opening scene where he's in front of the mirror putting his makeup on, it's just a slow push that lasts for about 25, 30 seconds.
And it's a really slow push, too.
Yep. And I automatically thought, and you can identify with this, I'm sure some of our viewers, when we watch a movie, we're analyzing it. And we're like, I bet that's CGI or bet. And I thought that window and that scene was CGI, but it was not. It was actually what was outside. And
really?
Yeah. I watched it behind the scenes.
You always take it for granted nowadays that they're,
right.
like, I will fix it later on.
And even the title sequence, that was not CGI. That was apparently...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they developed that.
They did the old style.
School.
So what we're talking about is in the movie The Joker, the actual like text and font that they have on the title sequence.
Yeah.
They actually did an emulsion burn on, I believe it was an emulsion burn on the actual film.
Correct.
That they were doing it on. And that's why it has a very vintage look and feel to it, is because they used an old process. I'm pretty sure that's what they did.
They did.
That.
Yeah. It was very impressive. And it's capturing the story and the emotion of a scene. And I think they did a very good job of shooting that. And I think they shot all of that on Ari with Vintage Primes, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
So it just gave it that really, really good look. And, of course, the acting was phenomenal. But sometimes you don't want the cinematography to overshadow the story.
You know what's weird about your selections on films here? So we started with Batman. Batman got into Dark Knight. Dark Knight had the Joker in it.
Right.
The Joker is what Joaquin Phoenix played in the Joker. And then you also like the Walk the Line. So there's something there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not. It'll give me something to think about for sure.
It's kind of like I guess it's like 7 degrees of separation. It's like looking at how they all get together.
How they all mesh. I mean, there's a lot of movies I could probably think of too. I mean, I always enjoyed the Pirates of the Caribbean series,
right?
Because they were just always massive budgets, and
you don't really think much of how they do that stuff because I mean, I think for some of us nowadays, you look at certain films and you go, well, that's going to be nothing but CGI. So I just hope they have a good story.
Right.
Right.
And
And then you see some and you go, wow, that's a great story. I hope they really nail that visual storytelling and they're creative with their camera placement and camera movement and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily in a 3D space. It's not. And I think that's the problem nowadays is that a lot of the, you look at like the Transformers movies is the thing that kind of comes to mind. But a lot of those really heavy CGI films, the cinematographer is multiple people on those because the cinematographer, I would assume, are they the ones that are doing where the camera's flying in 3D space to be able to do a lot of the stuff that they do? I don't know. I don't know if that's, but it's not just one person's vision at that point.
It's a multitude of visions. And I guess another couple recent movies that really impressed me was the Peanut Butter Falcon.
That was a good movie.
It was a great movie, and it was captured very well.
Very simple.
Yes, it was very,
camera angles.
Yep, it was very simple.
It wasn't. They didn't. And it's a great movie, by the way.
Absolutely.
Ending, wasn't super happy.
I
with
wasn't
the ending
either. I was like, crap.
It was okay. It was a little Hollywood ending.
It was,
and by all means, not trying to spoil anything. Go out and watch Peanut Butter Falcon.
Absolutely.
It's a great movie.
I think it's 99 cents or I think it's free on Amazon Prime currently.
Is it really?
Yeah.
And it's a great, like if you are contemplating whether watching a Hallmark movie this Christmas or Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah, definitely.
Peanut Butter Falcon wins.
All the Hallmark movies are the same anyway.
Yeah, they're kind of the same thing.
And another movie that really impressed me that people might disagree with me on is A Star is Born.
That was really well done.
It wasn't even so much cinematography. It was the acting was how they played off each other was amazing, and the emotion behind it was great. But the cinematography was great. I hated the ending. But
yeah,
it was,
the cinematography was really good in it.
Solid.
And I thought that the choices that they made of where to have the camera close and when to have it far away was very motivated.
Absolutely.
And
very
so after a while of watching The Star is Born, a lot of it, this is what I always like about films, is when I can't tell that there's been an edit done.
Right.
When I don't see the cuts, and it just kind of flows. If I can get out of my head of worrying about the edits, and if I can get into where I can really enjoy it, then I know that probably most people are going to as well too. Because I'm a little nitpicky about it myself.
No, it's sometimes hard to go to a movie with me.
Yeah,
but
my wife doesn't like. She doesn't like watching movies with me. I usually watch movies by myself now.
So. You're on your director commentary,
and that's totally fine with me.
Right.
Yeah.
And a quick side note, as far as TV, I won't go too far on it, but one of my favorite shows that I really enjoy that captured everything and what you would want to see is the show Shameless, the U.S. version.
I haven't seen that.
It's a very heavily emotional show, but the way there's just a lot of family conflict, but the camera angles capture people's emotion during the conflict, and I think they did a very good job considering the environment they were in. And I don't know, it's just to me a great show. It's hard to replicate people's problems and lives and not be able to also show that in a cinema way as well. Because I've seen movies where it's a really serious note, but the cinematography didn't echo that, and it just didn't capture it or draw you in. And this show, I think, kind of did all of it. So it's a great show.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it will give you every sense of emotion: anger, hate, love.
Well, that brings up a cool idea. It's not a cool idea, but I think you definitely start to run into it, especially in like more of the independent film way of looking at things. Is that you have a lot of times people will use technology or gear or types of shots for the sake of using it, but not for the sake of telling the story visually or the best way in which it could be told. Does that make sense?
They try to be more like fancier industry standard,
like using a slider when you don't need to use a slider.
Right.
It might be better just to have it on sticks and tell the story that way.
Sure.
Or just maybe be a little bit more creative with the camera angle, opposed to going, hey, let's use a slider because we have access to one. Or let's use a gimbal because we have access to one.
Right. Utilize the tools you have and make sure it's for the right reasons and purposes.
Now, I know that kind of puts you out of business if somebody goes, I really want a jib shot. And you wouldn't go, well, you don't really need it in this shot.
Right. No, I've been there before where someone really wanted to go all out. I'm like, I don't see you needing to utilize that.
Right.
But, I mean, for the most part, yeah. Or, I mean, the nice thing about a jib, though, you can always lock it off and park it.
Right.
So it's like on sticks, but
Yeah.
that's a whole different thing as well. But no, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. So now, have you watched The Mandalorian?
No,
You haven't watched it?
I have not. I know I'm a horrible person.
You know what? I think I talked about it in the last podcast, but that series
I heard
has
the last
been
episode was crazy.
Last episode was
Blew
awesome.
everyone's mind.
Yeah, it was awesome. First season was great.
Yeah,
I watched the first season twice.
really.
Yeah, second season is good. I'm probably going to go back and watch second season again.
Wow.
But it's just are you a Star Wars guy?
So this is gonna sound really bad. I just watched Star Wars for the first time this year.
Like the first one? Like A
Any
New
of them.
Hope?
Any of them?
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
You know what? Growing up, I never was into the sci-fi stuff. I was more of a realistic person. So I guess.
Oh, the documentary stuff.
Yeah. So, and I read probably over 200 books growing up. The majority of them were biographies, but I just never could get into sci-fi. The only sci-fi movie that I really enjoyed was Mad Max.
And that's not really sci-fi.
And it's not, but it kind of fits under that category, so to speak, but in the film industry. But yeah, I just never was a Harry Potter,
That's interesting.
Star Wars nerd, and I'm a big nerd every other way, but I just started watching
not
this year.
as far as Star Wars.
Because my best friend and business partner was like, "You better freaking watch these," you know. And I was like, "Fine, I've got Disney Plus, might as well."
But you haven't watched Mandalorian yet.
No, I was going to. Then I saw all these posts on Facebook like, "It's complete crap. They did this wrong. This series sucks."
Really?
Oh yeah.
No, Mandalorian rejuvenated my love for that story.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, growing up, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes
Sure.
Back's my favorite, one of my top 5 films. Return of the Jedi, and then
They are great movies.
And then I got into, whenever they released the prequels, I wasn't super happy about those.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I was kind of like,
Maybe that's why I don't watch them. I don't want to be set up for disappointment.
yeah. And then the last 3 that they did, I watched those and I was like, bleh. And then I watched Mandalorian and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is
Right.
exactly what
I've
it
heard
should
everyone
be.
talk about Baby Yoda more than anything.
Oh yeah, yeah. Grogu, yeah. No, and it is. They did a great job on the series.
Sure.
It tells a great story and it's fun.
Right.
They use this. I don't know what the technology is, but it's just basically a big room with movie screens, and that's the set.
Really?
Yeah, it's like
not
what
looked into
do you call it? I don't know if it's a big television screen or if it's a big projector, but the whole room has, and they just it mimics the lighting of that location. And
Really?
everything, and all they're doing is they're building set around it.
Gonna put us out of business.
Yeah, they put a bunch of people out of business.
Right.
It will.
I'm sure it's very expensive.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
And Disney can afford it right now.
Right.
The only thing we can do now is we can maybe buy some projectors and start figuring out how we can do it on a small scale.
More like the power cord for the projector, probably.
Right. So you've talked about possibly having a change of career path.
Well, yeah. 2 years ago, back in 2017, I woke up one day, and I'll tell people all the time, make sure you take care of yourself because the film industry can burn you out. And I basically did that. And one day I woke up, and it actually always had been a dream of mine. I decided to become a police officer. I went through a 9-month program through Drury University, and honestly, I started in 2017, graduated in May of 2018, and became a police officer. I've worked at a couple departments. Not to get into too much detail, but this past year I've had to put it on hold because I was in a motor vehicle accident. I'm okay for the most part, but it messed up my back pretty good to where I've had to put it on hold. But I think I've hopefully made enough progress to where I can possibly pursue that again next year and still balance between that and video production. And people ask me why would I ever choose that? Well, it's part of a serving thing, and it's something I've always wanted to do, and I can say that I feel like I'm pretty good at it. And there's just something different about it. And honestly, working as a business owner and working with people, that's part of being a police officer.
Right.
You're trying to figure out how people function. You're learning how to talk to them. So I think it's great that I can kind of utilize that all together. But honestly, if I were to have a dream of what I wanted to do, is honestly, I actually really enjoy directing live TV.
Yeah.
There's just not a big market around here for that. But I've built a few TV studios for clients, and I've really enjoyed it. And I did that for years, and I just really enjoy live studio production because it's formatted and it's always in order. I mean, I love shooting movies, but it's, all over the place, and as you know, can take months to shoot. So I've always loved live production.
It's never in order either. It's always
always out of order.
Always out of whack.
Ending of the movie's the first day of shooting. It drives me nuts. I just love looking at a format, knowing my time codes and everything. But anyway, so yeah, I currently hold a post-A-piece license in the state of Missouri, and we'll just continue to utilize that and also do video production.
And I'm sure there's some way that you can kind of meld the two of those things together.
It's I almost got asked to film the live VD at one point, but I had a past job that it was a conflict of interest. But I've always wanted to create a documentary about police work, but from a perspective of a cinematographer, which I don't think quite has been done yet. And
No.
I think it would be great because you're looking through the eyes of a lens, but you're also looking through the eyes of a police officer.
And in today's day and age, we've gotten over the last, I would say probably the last year to 2 years, we've gotten to the point where we've, outside of like television shows about police officers, we really don't have anything that puts that human element to what a police officer goes through. I mean, you see some of this documentary stuff, but it's more about the action-packedness.
It's one extreme or the other.
The craziness, but you don't look at the
lifestyle
and the life decisions that these people have to make. And that might be, maybe that's something that we need. Maybe we need to be able to see that side of it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Some people have watched the movie End of Watch, which is an excellent movie because it kind of portrayed that, what officers go through. But I think that'd be great if it became more.
See, that was Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
And
I can't remember.
Pena?
Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It was.
Shot very well, too, I think. But something to that extent almost, because I have a lot of police officer friends, and a lot of people don't know we all have like second jobs. We don't become a police officer for the money. The most you can make up here generally is about maybe $18 an hour.
Really?
And when you have a family to feed like I do, it's almost near impossible. And so we do these second jobs to make
as
up.
a police officer, you're getting your butt kicked most of the time out there.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's paperwork, literally, physically, mentally, it's and
people probably mostly treat you like crap anymore, don't they?
Yeah, thankfully around here most people are pro police, but definitely I've encountered quite a few instances where they just either racism or, I mean, my first day as a police officer, I dealt with a homicide. My second day, I almost got shot during a warrant. I mean, it's just something different every second, and you just have to be ready. And I kind of joke, well, not joke, but I just tell people being a cop is kind of like being a filmmaker. You're sitting there 1 second, have nothing planned. Next thing you know, you're packing your gear and you're running out to a gig, and you got to do it all yourself and, problem solve every second. I tell them it's just like that being a police officer. You're typing a report in a park, and next thing you know, you got a call to a crazy call, and as soon as you're driving there, you got to figure out how you're going to handle it. Yeah. So I think the two kind of coincide quite a bit more than people realize.
Well, talking about filmmaking and filmmaking gear, so you're a Sony guy.
Yeah.
For the most part, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, and you're using the FX9.
Currently, that is our primary camera we use, yeah.
What were you shooting on before that?
The Sony FS7.
Okay, so you're FS7 before that. Now, we are getting into the geek talk portion of this a little. We'll try to keep it. We'll try to explain what we're talking about as we do it. I've had a few friends that have been like, I don't even understand what you're saying, what you're doing. So the FX9 and the FS7. The FS7 was a older version of the Sony cinema camera line that was a smaller sensor, what they call a super 35 millimeter sensor.
Correct.
And then the FX9 that just came out last year, right?
The end of last year, yeah.
End of last year. is Sony's new kind of flagship prosumer cinema camera.
Well, it's considered a pro.
It's pro, but it's not like their
Venice.
It's not their Venice. Their Venice is what I would consider like their pro
Correct.
camera.
Yeah,
because that one's like a 15. No, it's more than that.
50,000.
It's a $50,000
Yeah, the
camera.
FX9 was about 12.
Yeah, the FX9, the FS7, those were both around in the same ballpark, right? $9,000 to $12,000 for those cameras.
The FS7 is one of the most still to this day rented cameras for reality TV.
And you had one of those prior too, right?
I still do.
You still have
I kept
that?
it because it's still in demand, and we still rent it out. So we
Really?
have the FS7, the FX9, and the A7 S3, which is a DSLR or a mirrorless camera that pairs well with the FX9 as far as color science.
Well, it's because essentially it's the same sensor, isn't it?
It's not the same sensor. The FX6 has the same sensor as the A7 S3, which is another cinema camera they're coming out with. But the FX9 is a full frame 6K that translates to 4K. That's also a super 35 millimeter camera that introduced automatic neutral density filters and also full autofocus availability. That where back 4 or 5 years ago, anything that said AF on it was still just was not very accurate. And Sony has really perfected that, and they've implemented it from their Alpha series into their cinema line. And the FX9 is basically uses the same similar science as the color science of the Sony Venice, but into an FX9 size body.
And just from my own opinion, they've gotten close to perfection on it. But I do notice on some of the footage that I've been seeing with the new Sonys, there still seems to be a predominant color cast on it. Would you agree on that?
I do. It originally used to be either a magenta or a green tint, but the FX9 has a new thing about it called S-Cinetone, which is a color science of the Venice, which is a straight out of camera look that doesn't require really any color grading, which the skin tones actually really look similar to an ARRI camera.
Right.
And if you use S-Log 3, they've developed these LUTs, these lookup tables that you can apply. And I've seen some products where they didn't tell me what camera it was, and they showed me the video, and I'm like, that had to be on an RELF, and it ended up being an FX9. But back to the basics of cinematography, it really dumbs down to your lighting and your lenses to perfect that image. But the FX9 has come a long way to the FS7 to where I don't even pick up the FS7 anymore, to be honest with you, because they've improved it so much. It's not perfect, but like Blackmagic and Red and ARRI, every camera has its own placement. But as of now, the FS7 and the FX9 still is able to be utilized from either live production to movies to documentaries, and still be in pretty good demand.
Yeah. So if you didn't catch what all that meant, play it back in half speed and look it up on Google, and you'll be able to make maybe out about 25% of it. But basically what we're talking about is we're talking about the color science. Every digital camera that you get out there, they all have their own version or their color science. They're basically what they're using. And so I would say the gold standard in Hollywood is the Alexa. That's what everything's based off of. Well, I really agree with you that lens makes a big deal in that, and lighting makes a big deal in that.
Absolutely.
You can have the best lighting and the best lens on a crappy little old A7, one of the first ones.
Right.
It would still look good.
Absolutely.
It would look amazing. It would look better than a lot of films that you see out there. Mm-hmm. And it's because of that glass that they're using, and the lighting, the grip that went in there and spent tons and tons of time to get it looking beautiful.
Absolutely.
And you're going to have a great looking film.
I've seen people utilize very expensive cameras and not produce a very good image because they didn't know how to utilize lenses and lighting.
There's a ton of stuff on Netflix. Actually, I would say probably 95% of the stuff on Netflix is if it was made in the last probably 5 to 10 years,
Right.
Story is lacking, and they have a beautiful camera. They probably should have spent some of their budget on writing.
I agree.
And acting.
It's usually one or the other, unfortunately.
You've got some projects that are going. There's some you can't talk about,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
Not for wide release,
Right.
which is awesome. There are projects that are out there that are moving forward.
Yeah.
But what are some of the ones that you can talk about as far as stuff that you got going on?
We're supposed to possibly do either another tour or a big concert for AJ McLean and Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC next year.
So what does that usually entail?
That's kind of a fly by the seat of my pants usually with those projects. But earlier this year, I got a call from a good friend of mine named Brandon Mashburn, who runs a band called ATCK, which implemented AJ McLean. It's kind of an EDM style DJ set. And he invited me to go on tour with him to 4 or 5 states earlier January of this year, and just originally kind of be there. And then I ended up
So you're doing promo stuff for that, or are you
Yeah.
doing like a documentary style for them?
More promo. I've been
Okay.
wanting to do a documentary. We might do that eventually, but yeah, he was like, just tag along, and I hopped on a tour bus, and AJ traveled with us, and we'd be at a new venue every night and do a 2-hour set and go to a hotel, get a few hours sleep, and hit the next city the next day. And it was a great time. And we filmed like a concert in Branson once at the Mansion Theater. March of 2018. That went really well.
That's cool.
Or 19. Yeah, and as far as other projects, we're currently working with a company in Springfield that stretches vehicles and makes them into limousines. They also make off-road adventure RVs. And
Oh wait, what was the name of this place?
Limoland or Springfield Coach
Okay.
Group.
And there was some other stuff you did. It was Ozark
Mountain Adventure Van.
Mountain Adventure
yeah,
Vans.
They own that. And,
Okay, so it's the same place.
Yeah, same place, and they can basically make anything for you, even an off-road grip truck, an off-road RV.
Really?
Yeah, and they're a really good company. They make some really cool stuff. We've been making some content for them, and they've got some exciting projects coming up that are really cool. I can't quite say the names of the people we'd be working with, but it's pretty cool, especially for something like this. Now I can say they've designed limos for like Cardi B and Busta Rhymes and some other
Really?
high-end people. Yep. And they flew here and saw their product and enjoyed it and purchased it and utilize it every day and whatnot.
That's cool.
Yep. And then we're still working on the Pray the Stand Down film with Damon Costello. What we filmed in November was only the first installment of this project, and we've got quite a few more days of filming next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So can you all talk when you guys start filming again?
That'd almost be a question for Damien. I mean,
We have to get Damien on here.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Might be pretty interesting.
Hopefully we'll be able to find, because it's been like floating around all over the place. You probably can't talk about all of it, can you?
The Pray They Stand Down.
Yeah.
Probably not. I don't know, honestly. You just look
All
on the
right.
Facebook page.
We won't get Joseph in trouble or anything. We'll just have to call Damien.
Why don't you
in.
come do a podcast on the set sometime?
Hey, that'd be fun.
That would be fun.
That
You
would be
just
cool.
doing our union break. do a podcast.
Let's talk about business just for a little bit.
Sure.
When you got into business, and I'll just say this, having my own business doing video production, I never really had to do much marketing, to be very honest.
Sure.
People found out that you made videos, and it was pretty easy for you to get work doing it.
I never had a website till last year.
Right. So tell us a little bit about you getting started in the business.
Right now it's hard to almost think of how that all started. To be honest, it goes back to working on sets with other filmmakers and showing that you have the work ethic and the ability to learn. And people remember that, especially in this industry, because there's a lot of people that own a camera, but very few that, you can honestly trust or count on. I didn't even call myself a professional anything until about 2 or 3 years ago, because once you go into that world and you label yourself a professional and charge the rates you do, you better be able to prove that. And I never did any marketing. I mean, I started a Facebook page years ago, but as of last year, I just started a website. But the best thing you can do is post consistent content, show the capabilities you have, join these cinematography groups on Facebook.
Super important.
Because, if we have all this cool gear, but if no one knows about it, they're not going to call us. But so I go on film pages on Facebook, like there's Kansas City Production Crew, there's it's called AKS Cinematography Group, where they also post gear, which can be a bad thing. But what you do is, I tell people, you don't brag to everyday people about what you have. You got to show it off to the people in the industry.
Right.
And it's not a bad thing to do. So I'll sometimes post, hey, we have a Sony FX9 package in the Midwest. We also utilize the FS7, the A7S3. We can operate cameras. We can produce, we can PA, and we can also do drip ops, and we have connections to people with Reds, REs, and drone abilities. So you almost want to make it, even if other people you associate with have their own business, people don't care if you utilize them as if they're part of your own company.
Oh, yeah.
And because you don't want to show the client that you're really limited. I mean, you don't want to also give off the feeling that you can do it all. But like, for instance,
you want to be realistic.
Absolutely.
Let them make sure that your qualities and your skills are realistic.
Right.
Because the worst thing you can do is to go into a meeting and set yourself up.
Yeah.
And you get in there and they go, oh, hey, we want to do this. You're like, I can't do that.
Right. And I've been in that situation before, so I've just realized. So I was like, hey, so do you do drone work? Yeah, absolutely. We utilize this. We have a good partner of this company that works on Netflix stuff and line of sight aerial with Tim. We can utilize him. Oh, hey, do you do car rig stuff? Absolutely, we know how to do that. We have a gentleman in town that has a specific rig that we utilize, and he'll be there on the shoot. And, it just makes it seem like they're all part of the same team.
Right.
So that's the best way to go about that as well. But as far as, I would never suggest heavily investing in marketing. I should have had a website longer than a year ago, because just because you hand out business cards, people still want to see something tangible or, visual. And, Facebook isn't where it's all at. You still need a good presence.
Yeah, you still have to get out and
that
you have to
professionalism.
do some work on website and it's good too, because you don't have to, you're not necessarily, I feel like with a website, you have a little more control over how your stuff is out there and the content. Yeah.
Watched over.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I agree.
So I just, you don't have to spend a lot of money, but just have a good presence and show what you have to offer. It's really, I will tell people, it's really hard to keep your demo reel up to date because you're always shooting stuff. But I try to update it twice a year with new content.
I have never made a demo reel.
You need to. You're a really talented dude. You need to.
I have never made a demo reel. I need to do one.
And that's the other thing. Learn something every day. And like when I met Tom here, I saw some of his stuff. I'm like, dang, I need to shadow this guy for a day and learn some stuff from him.
Yeah, well, it's likewise. You have a very beautiful aesthetic as far as with lighting. I like how you play with lighting on a lot of your stuff. You rely on the audience's ability to draw a line with the subject.
Yeah.
You don't have to blast it with light. It doesn't have to be, and I think that's why, it's what lends itself to you having that FX9 camera.
Sure.
Is because you can tell that you definitely like the subtler, more not so high key,
right?
But that very almost a kiss of light on certain things.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful. It really is, and I really enjoy it. Like I like watching some of those. You can definitely tell that's kind of what you're looking at,
right?
And you even see it in your photography too. Your photography and your cinematography it's the
similar.
Same person doing it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Which I like that.
Which a lot of people just knew me for my photography. I'm like, I do video stuff too. And
yeah.
I prefer to do that. And they're like, your photography is so good. And I'm like, okay. But then I kind of realized I need to kind of pair the two so they kind of like look like they're all by the same person.
It is, and I think that's the fun part nowadays with the way the cameras are, is that we have the ability to compose a moving image.
Right.
And tell a greater or a different story than what we used to with just a single shot.
Right.
And to me, that's fun.
Oh, absolutely. It's a challenge.
Being a photographer, starting out as a photographer and working within those limitations, but now not being a photographer and filming and, like for me, and I know this sounds weird, but I absolutely love sitting out in the middle of a field in the springtime, capturing like either photos or video of flowers and bugs. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's just something that
nice
I got in my head, and it's therapeutic for me. I can sit out there all day and do it. And I'm like, I think I'm going to go sit out in the field today, hon, and shoot video footage of little bugs and bees and stuff landing on flowers. Yeah. And I could do it literally all day. And if I knew I could make money at it, I would do it, for sure.
Right. Well, that's where my whole career started. It was a therapy. And I'm like, I might be able to make money off this therapy.
It really is. It is. I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about the business that obviously that we're in, is that we've been able to do something that is very therapeutic. It's cool to a lot of people. Yeah. But I think it's cool because it's foreign to a lot of people. Like they look at it and go, I would never be able to do that. Yeah. And they would if they spent the time and, the sheer total immersion that you go through to get to the point that you're at now. It does take a long time to learn.
It does.
Camera and composition and lighting and all that. It takes a ton of time, and it takes a ton of mistakes to get there to do it.
A lot of trial and error.
But it was a lot of fun getting to that point.
Yeah.
And being in that headspace and saying, you know what, I enjoy doing this all the time, and I could do it.
Kind of actually hit me last year. I'll be honest, I never really heard of the name of the band Bush, even though I should have. Yeah. But I got a phone call to bring a jib out there, camera crane, and film one of their concerts in Kansas. And
that's cool.
I just kind of dropped everything, and the next day went out there. And as I pulled in, I walked through the backstage door, and I'm handed a lanyard with my name on it, and it says, crew only or something. And I'm walking them backstage, and ended up not knowing I was having lunch with them too. And and I stood there, and I go out on the stage because I was near the stage with the jib, and no one can come near. And I just looked, and it was kind of a weird moment, like I'm getting paid to do this, something I enjoy,
right? And
I'm here, and people are screaming to like get past the point I'm standing to get to the stage and see these people in person. And it was just kind of a surreal moment, because even filming like AJ, people were like, you can take us to meet him, right? I'm like, no. Like, what's it like traveling with him? Like, I guess it's cool. I mean, it's another dude. And
right.
So it's but I just realized at that moment that I'm very thankful for him at, and I'm appreciative of every client, and regardless of who it is and what their social standard is, or stature is, and getting to work with them and making a living off of it is a really special thing, and not to take it for granted.
It really is, and that's, kind of just like what you're saying, waxing poetic on it, is that I am very blessed. I think it was about a year ago. Actually, it was longer than that. It was about 2 years ago. I was filming out in Maryland, and I had driven all the way out there, had all my gear in the back of the truck,
Yeah.
Got called to come out and film in Maryland.
Awesome.
And I was staying in this hotel that I had paid for, expensed it myself and all that kind of stuff. And I had, lugging all my gear up to my room and getting all the batteries charged up and getting everything set to go for the next day and working on script and all that. And I was sitting there in the bed, and I thought, there's really nothing else that I would rather do than do this job, because I enjoy the windshield time of driving and thinking through that, what I'm going to film the next day, and almost directing the whole thing in my head. And I love the idea of working on the script, and I love the idea of going, I am totally self-sufficient at this point, and I can do all of this. And that it brings me joy. It always has. Feeling. It is. Yeah. And I think it's kind of one of those things that after you can conquer that kind of stuff creatively, it makes it a little bit easier for other things. Right. Like I can see, for you, like deciding to be a police officer, it probably makes it a little bit more approachable and doable, because running your own business, but running your own business in an art field where it is, it's prone for failure.
Right. A lot of competition as well.
Ton of competition. There's always somebody else that's better than you out there.
Right.
Which is good. That's a great thing.
Absolutely.
I think it's awesome. And that's where, but I will say, like, the people that I have met in this field and working in this field, like not talking about the people that I interview or my clients,
Right.
but my contemporaries, people like you, and you can sit and we can talk literally a foreign language and nobody even knows it's a foreign language.
Right.
They have no idea, no context of anything that you're talking about. And I think that that's absolutely amazing.
Oh, it's cool. And it's funny. A lot of the terms we use in the film world, we actually utilize in the police world.
Really?
We'll say copy. We'll say 10-4.
Oh, really?
You know, we'll, there's some similarities there, or like, you know, just dressing a certain way, or it's just, I realize there's some similarities there, or like, you know, the way you talk to your customer,
Sure.
even crime scene photography, you know. I'm actually currently trying to develop a lesson plan for police officers to get better at crime scene photography, because that was almost one of the number one things police officers struggle with and get maybe 4 hours of learning in the academy is crime scene photography.
Wow. And that's probably a pretty big deal when it comes to like the case and
It is.
all that kind of stuff,
And
is how well you do on that.
You can't delete photos even if it's blurry. You know, everything has to be consistent. You always have to shoot a wide shot, a medium shot, and a close-up shot, and you have to do things to scale.
Really?
And half of the photos sometimes are crap because they'll flash bounce and it blurred out everything, or you know,
Or a finger was in front of the flash.
right, or
that'll
someone's
cause
foot.
a mess. Yeah.
So I'm trying to develop a real life lesson plan for law enforcement to be able to utilize what they have. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it's a work in progress. It'll take a while, but I think it'd be a pretty cool opportunity and background and whatnot.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, is there any projects that you want to work on? Is there anything out there that you want to try and do that you haven't done?
I think it would be to make a full length documentary. I think it would be do that, or direct. Well, no, I have directed live concerts, but they're very small. I came really close to being able to direct the big Christian concert out here in Rogersville every year.
Oh,
Light
yeah.
the Way.
Light the Way, yeah.
And actually help build their current TV studio they have right now.
Oh, all right. With
John Wilson.
John Wilson, yeah.
Yeah.
This is his Roadcaster.
I was just going to say the first time I ever used one was John Wilson's.
Yeah, I bought his.
Used to go to Winter Jam all the time. I would always get kicked out because I had a camera. And then this year I was invited to film it.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, one of my aspirations is to get back into filming live concerts.
So you like the
directing.
live concert stuff?
Directing live stuff is a dream of mine. But I think one of my goals is to do either a reality show or a documentary.
Really?
I've worked on reality shows before, but kind of a smaller caliber. But I would just love to do like a full season of something for Netflix or Discovery Channel.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's plenty of stuff down here to film that we could figure out something to film.
Oh, yeah, and that definitely needs to be my goal next year, is do something with you. We're going to project.
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be super fun.
Oh, absolutely. And we can maybe do a camera shootout or with your Z
or
something like that fun, and get some actors together.
You know what? We need to get a group and just get together, and we just need to get out and start making some films and having fun doing it.
Absolutely. And make it like a creative workshop environment too, to where we can stop production and be like, hey, what does this mean? And explain it. Because that's the other thing. I try to have people shadow me sometimes, but when you're in the midst of it, you don't have time to explain things.
Well, and sometimes it's better to not explain it so that the person can sit and cook on it all day and go, man, I don't know what the heck he meant.
Right.
And then they finally go, hey, what did you mean by that? And you go, this, you go, oh, and then you'll never forget it again, you know? And so sometimes it's better just to get thrown into the fire. And I think it's even, I mean, I like doing that. Like if I was to go, and if you were to go, hey, Tom, I need you to come over and film this or help me with this, I have no problem. I love jumping into stuff like that because to me, that's how I think I learned faster in that environment.
Absolutely.
Than if I were to go and be told how to do everything. I think I would I would probably lock up.
And I love teaching. I actually used to teach a high school or college prep program at a local high school.
Oh, really?
And I've never been to college in my life. That's the other thing. And it was...
I think it's overrated.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially in this field, I think it's a little.
Oh,
overrated,
absolutely.
yeah.
But all these kids want to do photo and video stuff, and unfortunately, half the class was failing. And I taught for about a month or two, and they all got their grades up, and I just did real world scenarios. We brought in lights and cameras and taught them how to set up stuff.
That's cool.
And,
so you had like a real like working like setup for them to sit and do their own stuff.
I brought it to the school.
And that's important.
Yeah, we went outside and I showed them how to use diffusion and flashes and all sorts of stuff. And I equally love teaching. It's hard to do it in an environment normally because you're, a paid environment, I should say, but I would be great to work with you and like just relax and have fun, be able to stop and teach people why we're doing what we're doing. And I don't think anybody has really done that or had the opportunity to do it. So, it's a great opportunity to learn stuff. And I kind of understand when some people have approached me and said, I've never gotten the opportunity and I know how they feel.
Right.
And I would just love to be able, even if it's just one day, just let them feel like they've had a really cool opportunity and they feel like they can go and pursue that themselves.
Well, and one of the biggest problems that we run into around here is that we don't have enough crew.
Oh, absolutely. Story of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody out there listening that the reason why you're listening to this is because you're intrigued by making films or working on films, get in touch with. We basically on this podcast, I have contact information. I usually leave my guest contact information out there. If anybody wants to work on it, guarantee you, here's how we all learned how to work on what we were doing. We worked for free.
Yep.
And you have that opportunity. Not to say that you will work for free, but if you really want to get on a project,
absolutely
ask.
Yep.
That's how I got to where I was able to do it. I told people, hey, can I help you? No, I don't need your help. And then I would ask them again, and I'd ask them again, and I'd ask them again. And one of my first jobs of being a photographer, I just said, I will shoot weddings for free.
Oh man,
it was the stupidest thing I ever did, but I learned a lot in the process.
I don't shoot a lot of weddings anymore for that reason. But know your work for free to get your foot in the door, but you eventually need to know your value and your worth.
Yeah, and the people if you surround yourself by people that value your work, you have nothing to worry about.
Absolutely,
because they will push you to start making money. They'll push you to start charging for your work.
I tell people I mentored someone last year. And she was like, I'm only worth $20. I'm like, no, like I'm telling you right now, you're worth like 100. And she's like,
you're worth 21.
Yeah, right, exactly. And now she's working for the chamber in Branson and making good money and
that's
getting
awesome.
to do her dream job basically. And it's just like sometimes you do have to give someone that nudge, like you are worth more than that. But yeah, if Tom puts my information in this podcast, anyone's more than welcome to shoot me a message or give me a call or whatnot. And more than happy to help other people out.
It's the quickest way to learn is to just jump into it and do it.
Don't be selfish and hoard all your secrets to yourself.
And show up on time.
Absolutely. Early. 15 minutes early.
Show up early. Well, Joseph, it's been great having you, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
We're going to do this again once everything opens up again and we got some more projects under our belt. We'll come back in and we'll kind of ramp it up. I do want to do an episode, and this is coming up. We're in the works on it, and I'm probably going to have Joseph come in and sit on this one, but we are going to have a Geek Fest 2021 this year.
That's awesome.
Where we are going to sit and we are going to talk about all the gear that we have loved, because 2020 we had a lot of technical good gear that came out. The average person probably doesn't recognize it, but some of us gear geeks, as far as in the camera world and in the film world, really did kind of our heads were blown off this year with some of the gear that came out. So
we'll do our own NAB this year.
Yeah, we'll do the
Midwest version.
We'll do the Midwest version of NAB. That sounds like a great idea.
Walk through the hallway with a live camera and have everyone's gear laying out there.
That would be fun.
That would be
just
great.
kind of talk about it.
Yeah, like Tim's drone or stuff, and just have it all set out there. And
I'll provide links in the show description for all the people and gear that we talked about today. And if you have any comments, please feel free to post those, and we can start some gear conversations. Also, if you're listening and there's a guest, an idea, a piece of gear that you'd like to have us talk about, feel free to interject. Also, any upcoming projects or hopefully premieres that you want to promote, let me know, and we'll use the power of the podcast to get it to the masses. And as always, if you have any specific questions for my guest, feel free to reach out to them. And I curate all my guests, and none of them bite. They are all very nice and accommodating people. So utilize that and make it benefit you. Our guest next week is Britney Greer, and her and I have worked on Project Pushing Envelopes together. She was my assistant director. And she will be talking about her filmmaking process and some of the cool projects that she's worked on. And she has a really cool project that I'm super stoked about that she has coming up. And so you'll want to make sure that you catch that episode. Again, as always, thank you so very much for listening. And Joseph, thank you so much for being on. It's
really
been awesome.
It. Thanks.
You have been listening to the Bravo Creative Podcast. Analysis of your biometrics have been compiled and calculated. You are now a minuscule part of the collective. Enjoy the rest of your pitiful day.